Your September 27th edition of AM Sports Live is now on the air. Hello there, everybody. I'm Andrew Goldstein, and welcome to another fantastic episode of AM Sports Live. It hasn't even been recorded yet, and I already know it's going to be fantastic. Why? Because stuff has happened in the sports world since we've last talked. Well, actually, stuff always happens in the sports world, but especially in the period between Tuesday, the day we did our last show, and today, Friday. And I'm going to do my best to break it down for you. Before I get into it, I just want to remind you all that this schedule of Tuesdays and Fridays for 45 minutes thing that I have going on will persist through at least next week. Beyond that, I might have to change it to better accommodate my schedule. I might not. But don't worry, fans of AM Sports Live, the show will be staying here. I'll still be producing regular content, but it might just be at different times and or for different lengths of time. And get up-to-date info on that, you could like my Facebook page, AM Sports Live. Follow me on Twitter at AM Sports Live 1, where I'll be live tweeting on Sunday, taking you through the games, mostly the early games, maybe some 4 o'clock games if I haven't gotten tired of tweeting by then. I actually got 3 tweets featured on FootballOutsiders.com this past week, and was like one of the 10 greatest things to happen to me in the last month or so. So, yeah, that's something. Uh, so we have Facebook, Twitter. Oh yeah, of course, follow National Sports on Spreaker.com or our YouTube channel. And you could email questions to amsportslive@gmail.com. But for information on the important stuff, the future of the show, Facebook and Twitter is where you're usually going to find it. Also, man, I had one other clerical thing to mention before I moved on, and now I'm just forgetting what it is. Darn it. Oh, okay, we'll move on. I'll come back to. Okay, I remember now. Just the weekly reminder that if you're listening to it on Spreaker.com and want to get in contact with me as I'm doing the show, you can click the thought bubble thing underneath the broadcast, broadcast display. If you go to the AM Sports Live page, if you go to the National Sports page on Spreaker.com, you should have the thing that displays that something is recording, then a little thought bubble image. You could click that, box will pop up, type whatever you want in there, and I'll read it and I will respond to it on air, unless it's something that is either profane or I have no idea how to respond to. So, yeah, we actually got a message last week that was just yo with a bunch of O's, and I responded to that. So, you could ask me if I like cheese. You could ask me how I think the Giants are going to do. Not well, but I'll just give a more complete answer to that question. You can ask me anything through that little thought bubble image. So definitely consider clicking on that and leaving me compliments, concerns, criticisms, questions, whatever you got. And it bears mentioning that before I get into the sports content, I have wisened up and gotten a bottle of water to stick next to me as I'm doing the show so I can kind of refresh my voice as I'm taking you through what happened in the world of sports over the last couple of days. And with that, let's actually get into it. So, we have a couple of things to talk about before I make my picks for the week. First things first, Mo Rivera. Mariano Rivera threw his last pitch in Yankee Stadium yesterday, and it was a very emotional moment. Derek Jeter and Andy Pettitte both jogged out to the mound when it was time for him to come out, and this whole season has been a one big Mariano tribute, and I feel like that's a good thing. He played 19 seasons in the majors. He's probably one of the best relief pitchers in the history of baseball, if not the best, and probably one of the classiest guys that you'll ever find in sports. So I feel like he went out the right way. And I know he hasn't quite gone out yet, because the Yankees still have 3 games left to play against the Houston Astros. But last night felt like his send-off. That felt like that felt like the moment we're gonna remember when we look back on this 10 years from now, 15, 20, 40 years from now, however many years. Pettit and Jeter jogging out to the mound, Mariano giving Pettit a big bear hug. That's probably one of the 10 greatest moments in the history of the Yankees organization. I feel like that moment will be remembered right up there with the "I consider myself the luckiest man in the world" speech, the called shot, just everything that's ever happened to the Yankees. That's right up there among all of it. And by the way, I hate to ruin the thoughtful, reflective mood and the Mariano Rivera appreciation, but one thing I forgot to mention in the opening was that my laptop gave me a message that said file disk number whatever has been corrupted. You should get a virus check or whatever. So if you hear me abruptly stop broadcasting for whatever reason, like the broadcast is only 10 minutes and it never gets posted or whatever, that's most likely why my computer just spontaneously shut down due to a hardware crash or something. I don't think that's gonna happen, but it has happened before. So I just want to warn my viewers about that. I didn't foresee any problems coming into the broadcast and was kind of blindsided by the message. Like I said, don't expect any problems, but just if there are, you know why they happen. But anyways, back to Mariano Rivera. So like I mentioned, the Yankees have 3 games left in Houston to close out the season. Obviously, they've been eliminated from playoff contention. They were eliminated, I think, on Wednesday. So there's no chance of Mariano appearing in the postseason. And judging from a lot of the things he said, uh, a lot of his mannerisms on the mound, the way his pitching has fallen off, I think there's just about no chance that Mariano would ever consider unretiring and coming back. I feel like he he's known for a while that this is the time to get out. That this is just the right time. And I can't really explain how he knows it, but something tells me that he's just feeling his emotions, feeling what he's doing on a day-to-day basis. And at some point he just said, I can't do this for another year. And he has a remarkable pedigree, retiring at the ripe age of 44, which is absolutely tremendous when you consider that most athletes retire in their 20s. The good ones, the ones that make in the Hall of Fame and really making lasting impacts on teams, often retire in their mid 30s. So to last, in some cases, a full decade beyond some of the greatest ball players to make their debut in the same year as him, that says as much about Mariano as any of his accomplishments. And ever since I've been born, Mariano and Derek Jeter have been the two constants. They've been, I think, the two things in the sports world that just haven't changed since the day I was born. Because let me think about this. I was born in 96. Rivera and Jeter were just breaking in at that point in time. Since then, we've seen Jordan, uh, Jordan get his second run of third championships and retire. We've seen Shaq move around from team to team. We've seen the steroid era. We've seen Manning versus Brady. But we're talking about 17 years. The two things that haven't changed, that Mariano Rivera and Derek Jeter are on the Yankees, or were on the Yankees in Rivera's case. Well, I don't want to push him out yet. He has 3 games left, but it's just going to be a little bit sad to see him go. And I'll always miss him. And I think that this was a fitting way to kind of say thank you for all the years of service. And his one last wish, which hasn't been fulfilled yet, but I suspect it will be this weekend against Houston, is to play center field because he loves shagging fly balls in batting practice. He's always made a habit of doing that. And in fact, that's how he injured I believe his ACL last season and was sidelined for the whole year. He was just out there shagging fly balls and he ended up tearing it. But he's now going to get his chance to play center field, if only for a short time in a meaningless game. But still, I feel like that's the best way we can honor him and really make sure he goes out on top by, it's his last game, so why not? After all he's done for the Yankees, I think they can afford him one more wish and let him play center field for a little while. So, like I said, I'm just very sad to see him go. He's just one of the best people in professional sports that I think we'll ever see, and I know that he'll be sorely missed by the Yankees. So, it's just a very sad day, and it gets you thinking, when is Derek Jeter going to retire? When is he going to get that same farewell from the Yankees fans? It might be next season, might be 2 years from now. I hope he doesn't announce his retirement this offseason, if only because losing Jeter and Mo in the span of a couple of months would just have a catastrophic effect on the Yankees organization and on the sports world at large. So I hope Jeter can hang on for a year or two more, but if he can't, if he feels like this is the right time to go this offseason, everybody will understand. Most of all, Mo Rivera. So, just in summation, Mo was just the best. He really was. And the game of baseball will forever remember his contributions. So, shifting off of Mo Rivera and onto another Yankee, Robinson Cano announced or like sources said that he wanted or something. I forget what it was. I'm gonna look it up, but either way, it came out. That's probably the best way to put it. That he wants a 10-year, $310 million deal along the same lines of the one given to Albert Pujols by the Angels. 305 million is the figure, and I'm just clicking on a link to find out who the figure is according to. But according to report, so uh, let's see. According to a source, the Yankees have already offered Cano deals of 8 years, 138, and 6 years, 144, but both have been shot down by his representatives. So he is looking for almost double the money that the Yankees are offering him. And I have the suspicion that he's going to walk this offseason and try and sell his services to the highest bidder. And I have no problem with that. It's a business. He has the right to do it, but I think it's ridiculous to ask for a 10-year, $305 million contract. First of all, 10-year contracts, in my opinion, are far too long for any athlete. If I were a GM, I would give no athlete that's ever played any game a 10-year contract. I think 7 years would be the absolute maximum I'd give out because there's just so much that can happen over 10 years. And I feel like if I were going to give it to somebody, the only people that I'd ever give it to are people under 24 or 25. Because if you're giving it to a 30-year-old, like the Yankees would be if they decided to cave into Cano's request, he's going to be in that mid to late career stage. Actually, not even mid career. He'll be in the late career stage for a majority of that contract. And we've already seen how dangerous those types of contracts are, like with the Angels and Albert Pujols and the Yankees and A-Rod, just too much stuff, or uh, too much stuff. My grammar is awful. Too many things, that's a better way to put it, can happen over a 10-year span. And you have Alex Rodriguez with the steroids allegations. You have Albert Pujols suffering a drop in production as his career gets into its later stages, just like every athlete that's ever played the game. So, if there were some way that his performance could be guaranteed for 10 years, then that 10-year, $305 million figure would be reasonable. But there's just no way any athlete can guarantee 10 years of what, $30 million performance. It just can't happen. So I feel like Robinson Cano is going to end up either getting that money from another team, maybe even the Red Sox if they're looking to stick it to the Yankees by signing their best player, or he'll come back to the Yankees at a significantly reduced price. But I don't think that the Yankees are going to end up paying him that money. At least I hope they don't. So now we get off of baseball and on to the NCAA. It seems like every single day the NCAA has been plagued by some new scandal. You have Arian Foster alleging that he was paid for his performance at the University of Tennessee. You had the Oklahoma State report by SI, the Thayer Evans report. I mean, it's been largely discredited, but the allegations remain the same: pay for play, drugs, uh, sexual interactions, just all sorts of stuff going on at major programs. But now the NCAA is looking as guilty as any of the corrupt programs that they claim to be prosecuting. And this week, EA, Electronic Arts, has announced that this upcoming video game for NCAA football 2014, will be the last one for an undisclosed period of time. The series is being suspended indefinitely. And also, sources say that both Electronic Arts and the College Licensing Corporation has reached a $40 million settlement with various players, with a large group of players whose likenesses were in their video games. So that suit, the Ed O'Bannon suit, is still marinating with the NCAA, and they've pledged to take it all the way to the Supreme Court if that is necessary. I don't think that's going to happen, but they've pledged to do it if necessary. Now, you're not going to believe this, but I have some thoughts on this one. Well, if I didn't have thoughts on such significant issues, then I wouldn't have this show in the first place. But I feel like this is the right move for EA. Now, when you're working with a business, the number one thing that you want is stability. And the sports video games that are produced by EA or by any other maker of sports games, they're not your typical games. It's not just the game development team. It's not just you. It's not just the graphics and everything. You're working with an entirely different group of people, along with the elements that you usually have to manage. You're working with the NCAA. You're working with the NFL or the MLB or the NBA or just any number of organizations. So, not only do you have to make sure everything is okay on your end to produce that game, but you have to make sure that everything is okay on the end of the people that you're working with. And the NCAA has kind of been in a turmoil over the student athlete, should they get paid for their likeness issues. And when EA sees something like that, when they see the NCAA's own rules being questioned, when they see various athletes getting into open disputes with an organization that claimed to be on their side for so many years, that's not projecting an image of stability. And when a big corporation like EA has a lot at stake, it has a lot to gain, a lot to lose, it's not going to take on extra risk. I feel like EA made the right move. They decided it's not worth it. We don't need to be associating ourselves with the NCAA right now. We're just going to settle. We're going to give them a small percentage of our profits, and then we're going to back away from this whole issue until things cool down. And I think that's the right move. EA doesn't need this kind of on their plate right now. And as for the NCAA, they're going to resist it for as long as they can. They're going to pretend like it's still amateur sports, even though everybody rakes in money off of it, except for the quote unquote amateurs. They're going to pretend like money and college sports don't mix, which they do, obviously, maybe even at um, a greater frequency than the pro game. And ultimately, they're just going to fight this thing to the bitter end. And it's a losing battle. Public opinion has swayed overwhelmingly against them. And, anytime Johnny Manziel is beating you in a popularity contest, even among the respect the game crowd in the media, then you know that you're really on the wrong side of an issue. But, they're going to take it to the Supreme Court, I guess. At least they said they're going to try. They're going to continue to deny players the right to profit off their likeness or profit off their name. Actually, I was reading a very interesting article in Forbes.com this weekend about the average worth of a college football player at a major program. Now, they didn't do any kind of complicated permutations for this. They didn't weigh, well, is the quarterback more important than the second string linebacker, blah, 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 blah. Obviously, when you get into all that, it gets more complicated. But they said, okay, let's take the University of Texas, for example. They were going to take all of their profits, take 47% of it because that's the current NFL collective bargaining agreement. That's how much the players get of all the TV revenues. Well, actually, all the general revenues of the teams, a minimum of 47%. And we are going to divide that up among the players at the University of Texas. And they concluded, the results came in, that the average Texas Longhorn football player is worth over $300,000 per year. Over 300,000. Every single team in the top 25 currently in college football, each player on their team, if you use that model for splitting up the revenues, would be worth over six figures. Or, sorry, six figures, not over six figures, over $100,000. Now, obviously, not even the staunchest supporter of paying college athletes is arguing for paying them six figures or wants to see them become rich even before they step onto an NFL field. But it does give a lot of credibility to the people who are arguing for a few $1,000s or some kind of weekly or monthly stipend. Six figures could be paid to football players at this country's top universities, and right now they don't make a dime. So the NCAA, like I said, is so far on the losing end of this fight that there there's just no coming back from it. there's just nothing left to do but either give in and start paying them or fight it, drag out every lawyer you possibly can, lose, and then start paying your athletes. So I think we know which course the NCAA has chosen, and it's just inevitable that they're going to lose. So that's the news this week from the NCAA, and actually, I feel like we could almost make a segment out of purely out of screw ups from the NCAA. If anybody has a good name for that segment, then please message me or something because I honestly think that A, there's enough content there that this could be a running thing on the show, and B, people need to know how incompetent, greedy, and hypocritical the or governing body of collegiate athletics is. So I'm gonna try and make that a new segment on the show. So moving on to the NFL, we're just over the halfway point on the show. Before I get to my picks and my reasoning for them, I just want to do a little bit of a rant on Thursday night games. So, Thursday night sucks. I mean, the Thursday night regular, like just Thursday night, is good because it's almost Friday, it's almost the weekend, it's time for football Sundays. It's just one day before I get to do my lovely broadcast for all of you fine folks at home. But I'm talking about Thursday night football. It's awful. I mean, let's run down the games, the three games we've had so far this season. We've had a Jets Patriots game with a ton of turnovers, just neither offense clicking, tons of penalties, and it ended in a 13-10 Pats win that just made people dive for the remote. So that was our week 2 Thursday night game. Week 3, Chiefs Eagles. Now, this one had an interesting plot line. Andy Reid comes back to Philadelphia. Yeah, his Chiefs were doing very well. Yeah, Chip Kelly and the Eagles doing Chip Kelly weird hurry up offense things, and it was going to be an entertaining match. At least it would have been if it weren't on Thursday night. Instead, the Eagles commit 4 or 5 turnovers. The Chiefs' offense really doesn't get clicking, and the game is like 40% of what it could have been. And then you get this past week where the Niners just completely roll over the Rams. It seems like every Thursday night game, either one team doesn't show up or both teams don't show up. There's always tons of penalties, tons of turnovers, there's blown coverages. Most of the time, neither offense is really clicking. There's just nothing fun about it, and there's a reason for it. You're taking a group of guys who just played football, probably one of the, if not the, most exhausting sports you could play. I would make the argument that among the popular sports in America, it's the most exhausting sport you could play, the most physically demanding, the most likely to leave you injured. You're taking a group of men who have played that game and you're asking two teams of them to play it again 3 days on 3 days rest on Thursday, Sunday to Thursday. Now, that's okay once per year, I think. On Thanksgiving, because it's a tradition, that's okay. And if you do it one time per year, then, you know, it's fine. People have done it forever. And I don't feel like the players have any problem with it. But when you get to doing it every week, when you at some point just wear down the players on each team, because each team plays at least one game on Thursday night, or at least most of them do. Actually, I think it's most of them, not each team. Sometimes teams get in their primetime games on Sunday or Monday nights, but you're taking most teams and just hitting them over the head once per season with this grueling game that's being played only 3 days after they played another grueling game. It leaves guys more likely to be injured in a league that's claiming to suddenly care about player safety. It's leading to exhaustion. It leads to poor performances. I can't remember the last Thursday game that was really entertaining. And I'm not alone when I say that I think it should be gotten rid of. It kind of screws up your fantasy team. You have to set your lineups early. It screws up the waiver process. It's still right in the middle of the week, so a lot of people just don't watch because, just personally speaking, I have schoolwork to do on that night. I mean, it's usually the same for Monday Night Football, but that's a tradition. That has no player safety ramifications. I'm fine with not being able to see Monday Night Football because I've got work to do. I'm not asking, that's just an unfortunate occurrence. But it's just all these things about Thursday Night Football build up to make it a very, very mediocre product. So, what I suggest the NFL does is move that Thursday night game to Friday if they really insist on having a weekday game so players can get one extra day of rest. And I think that's going to make a difference if it indeed happens, or just scrap it entirely. And I'm not necessarily happy about taking the games off NFL Network because I love Rich Eisen, I love Steve Mariucci, love Deion Sanders. They do a fantastic job with it, but ultimately it's detrimental to the overall well-being of the players, especially if they have to make a flight on a short week. So that's my rant on Thursday night games. I think they're horrible, horrible idea that's gotten predictably horrible results. And I want to hear from you on this one. Do you think that Thursday night games are a bad idea, or do you think they're okay? Do you think they should stay? You could tweet me at AM Sports Live 1, tell me on Facebook at AM Sports Live, message me, whatever you want to do. So I'm just going to take a quick, refreshing swig of my water. Hold on one second. Okay, that's good water. By the way, the show has been sponsored by Poland Spring water, keeping Andrew Goldstein's throat very well massaged since like 20 seconds ago. By the way, Poland Spring, I gave you that one for free. If you want future advertisements on this show of about 100 regular listeners, then you're going to have to pony up some money, or else I'm switching to Aquafina, or that what's the water that comes in the fancy bottles that you get at hotels? It's not Evian. It's Fiji. Yes. So Poland Spring, if you don't pony up the money, I'm gonna be switching to Fiji water for my next show. So you've been warned, Poland Spring. But anyways, that's irrelevant. Let's get on to my NFL picks of the week. So I'm gonna take the Ravens over the Bills. Nobody's noticed, but the Ravens have rebounded quite nicely since their opening day loss against Denver. The defense has been clicking, and while they haven't exactly faced really high caliber offenses like the Browns and the Texans, they're not facing one this Sunday either. It's a road game against a rookie quarterback. I don't feel like the Ravens should have much trouble with this one. I feel like they're going to win. They're going to go to 3-1. However, I am impressed by EJ Manuel. I think he's shown some great instincts, is a very good arm. I think, and for the first time in a while, Bills fans have reason to be optimistic about their future. And just as a side note, they're not going to be optimistic about their future for too much longer unless they get Justin Rogers out of that first cornerback situation because he was just awful against the Jets. Stephen Hill burned him. Santonio Holmes burned him. Oh, it was Absolutely awful. Get Justin Rogers out of there. So, second game of the week, Bengals at the Browns. It's Brian Hoyer time, ladies and gentlemen. The Browns, my sleeper pick, they're back. And I feel like I'm so excited about it that I'm obligated to choose them over Cincinnati this week. I feel like their defense has always been there. It's been there all throughout this season. I mean, you probably haven't noticed because they lost their first two games and you were focusing on why Brandon Weeden is so horrible, as I think most of us have. But I've been looking at that defense and they stop the run. They have a legitimate number one corner in Joe Hayden, and they have one of the best left tackles in the game, Joe Thomas. They have people who can tackle on the front on the defensive line, like Phil Taylor, Atiba Rubin. They can win games at the line of scrimmage. And if Brian Hoyer just doesn't screw up, the Browns are absolutely a team that can win 9 games and get a fluky playoff berth. So, yes, Browns in this game. I was not at all impressed by the Bengals' turnovers this past week against the Packers. I feel like they jumped out to that early lead and then tried as hard as they could to give the game away, and the Packers just couldn't take it. So I'm gonna go Cleveland here. All right, Bears at the Lions. This is gonna be a tough game. Divisional games, things always get kind of wacky in those. The Lions and Bears, both teams with high variability of performances. But the Bears, it all depends on whether their defense is generating turnovers and whether you get good Jay Cutler or bad Jay Cutler. And for the Lions, that depends on how many penalties they're committing, whether Ndamukong Suh gives an offensive lineman the people's elbow, whether Matt Stafford is throwing picks or not. You know what? I like the Lions in this one. I feel like Calvin Johnson just gives you such an advantage over every cornerback in the game. I feel like the Lions are going to be chucking it downfield 40 or 50 times. And besides, there's no way that Jay Cutler, a team led by Jay Cutler, is going 4-0, right? It just can't happen. Jay Cutler's got to come back down to earth at some point. He's just been riding a relatively turnoverless streak for too long. And there's no better game for him to come back down to earth than on the road against a turnover-minded divisional opponent. I like Detroit here. So moving right along, Giants at the Chiefs. Oh, what do we do with the Giants? You have three offensive linemen down. Chris Snee. We have Boss down. We have David Deal down. Eli Manning just has no time to throw, and when he does, he's throwing things into windows that don't exist. You have David Wilson fumbling the football. You have no pass rush being generated. You have just nothing going on with the Giants. And it's amazing how in 2 years they've gone from being a Super Bowl winner to truly being one of the three worst teams in the league, maybe one of the five worst teams. I like the Chiefs in this one, and I'm cautious about it because, the Giants have roped us into not believing in them in the past, and I'm highly suspect that the Chiefs are as good as their 3-0 record would suggest, although I certainly do think they're a good team, but I just can't justify picking the Giants here. I'm going to go with Kansas City. And plus, it's going to be in Kansas City, and since they have a good team again, that whole Arrowhead advantage comes back. It was lacking for most of this decade, but now I feel like Arrowhead is going to take its spot behind Quest Field in Seattle as one of the toughest places to play in the NFL. And also, my stuttering should tell you that my brain is shutting down. I've been up since 5:30 this morning, and my capacity for intelligence is rapidly dwindling. So let's get through the rest of these games. Steelers Vikings in London. Now, quick mini rant on the NFL putting a team in London. That's not going to work either. It's just about as bad of an idea as the Thursday night games are. You have teams making cross country flights. Well, not cross country, transatlantic flights. You have players living in a very expensive city to live in, place with relatively bad food, uh, a lot of, like I said, a lot of flights that have an effect on player health. That was a concern that Panthers wide receiver Steve Smith vocalized this past week. It's just a bad idea. And actually, Bill Barnwell a couple of weeks ago wrote a column about this on Grantland.com. And when he went to London to watch the last game played there, he was talking to a lot of the fans and asking them, "Oh, where are you from?" And a couple of the answers were London, and a lot of them were from England, but a lot of them were also from Germany or the Netherlands or France or Italy or just all over Europe. And trekking to London once or twice per year to see an NFL game is a lot more feasible than doing it 8 times per year and across time zones and what have you, just to support an NFL team in London. I feel like Los Angeles should get the Jaguars when they inevitably move instead of London, and I just don't think putting a team there is a good idea. But anyways, sorry, British people, we gave you a horrible, horrible game. The 0-3 Steelers at the 0-3 Vikings. I'm just gonna take the Vikings and move on. And later this year, the Brits get to see the 49ers blow out the Jaguars. So, sorry, guys. Wish we could give you a better game, but we didn't. Once again, our apologies. Cardinals at the Buccaneers. Well, first of all, Josh Freeman benched 2 days ago in favor of former NC State quarterback Mike Glennon. Glennon's 6'6", and tall is always a very good trait to have if you're a quarterback. It gives you a lot better vision. You can see over the line and really get a good picture of what's happening on the entire field. But actually, that's why scouts like Joe Flacco, when he was being drafted back in 2008, I want to say it was. Yeah, 2008. But besides that, not much is known about Mike Glennon. And still, this is just a matchup of two pretty uninspiring teams. I'm just going to take the home team when in doubt because this seems like pretty much a push to me. So I'm going to go with the Bucks. Colts at the Jaguars. So, by the way, Andrew Luck, Colts defense, thanks for screwing up my Eliminator challenge. In week 3, you have embarrassed me for the last time, and I feel like picking against you just out of spite, but I can't. Because that would mean I'd have to pick the Jaguars, who have probably the best shot that we've seen since the 2008 Lions of going 0-16. So, yeah, Colts. Okay, last 1 p.m. game. Seahawks at the Texans. I mean, Matt Schaub has just been awful recently, and it's not going to get any better because the Seahawks linebackers have all been playing really well. The pass rush has been connecting. Richard Sherman's been playing like the best corner in the game. And plus, they have a tremendous run defense. Earl Thomas, Cam Chancellor can both come up into the box and make plays on Arian Foster. So Matt Schaub is going to be forced to drop back and throw it, and his mechanics have been awful. So I'm going to take the Seahawks on the road here. I like them to run their record to 4-0. So let's go to the 4 o'clock games. Actually, how many early games do we have? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 early games. Okay. That's going to make for a pretty good sampling on the Red Zone channel. And by the way, before I continue, the teams that are on bye this week are Green Bay and Carolina. Okay, first 4 or 5 game, Jets at the Titans. The Titans front seven has been doing some very good things. Yeah, Jarrell Casey just kind of running amok in the Steelers game. He just shoved aside David DeCastro multiple times to make big plays. You have Derek Morgan and Zach Brown around the ball. You have Altron Werner making plays in the secondary, returning an interception for a touchdown against Matt Schaub. His Titans defense is starting to look a little bit frisky. And as much as I like Geno Smith and I'm genuinely into the Jets, into the 2013 Jets with their sudden capacity to throw deep passes and the reemergence of the running game and all that good stuff, I feel like this is Tennessee's game to lose. They have the personnel to stop Geno. They can rush the passer. They can stop the run. It's all just going to be a question of whether Chris Johnson can get positive yards, and that's not a given. And more importantly, whether Jake Locker can still be as effective against the Jets as he was against the Chargers. And one thing I've noticed about the Jets in recent years is they're not very good at stopping quarterback scrambles. Uh, contained defense has never really worked out very well for them. And I think that the reason for it is simply because they haven't had to see much of it. Their biggest rival for years and years has been Tom Brady. And, Tom Brady's a lot of things, but mobile isn't one of them. So I feel like the Jets haven't seen a quarterback with Jake Locker's speed around the edge because last week proved that he is deceptively fast. And I feel like he's going to pick up a couple of big third downs with that scramble, especially against the Jets' relatively young linebacking core. And I feel like the Titans are going to squeak out a close win. Eagles at the Broncos. I'm going to take the Broncos here. The Eagles' defense is horrible. The only way that they can win is if they're matching the Broncos point for point and if they're really utilizing that hurry up offense. But if they utilize the hurry up offense and score in 3 or 4 minutes like they did in week one against Washington, that would mean that they're putting their defense on the field for 36 minutes against Peyton Manning. And that doesn't work either. So, Broncos, easy pick here. Redskins at the Raiders. I'm going to go with the Redskins here. Uh, I feel like both of these teams are just awful and don't have a ton of hope going forward, but I don't have a ton of confidence in the Raiders' capacity to stop the running game or any football player with 2 arms and 2 legs. So the Raiders defense, not a good situation. I feel like this is the week where the wheels on Terrell Pryor are going to come off because they're going to one of these days. I like the Redskins here. Cowboys at the Chargers. This is going to be fun because the game will be tied at like 24-24 going into the final 8 minutes of the fourth quarter, and then it'll just be a battle to see which team can give away the game first. The Cowboys or the Chargers. Uh, you know what? This is essentially a push, and when in doubt, take the home team. I'm going with the Chargers here. I like what they did last week, despite the loss. Like I said on Tuesday's show, they could easily be 3-0 right now, and I don't have confidence in the Cowboys. These are just two teams that kind of make you vacillate between liking them and really, really not liking them, almost on a week to week basis. And I hate that I don't have any intelligent analysis here, but I feel like attempting it might even be, professing to know what's going to happen, and I don't. Because the Cowboys and the Chargers are just two teams that just make you wait for weeks on end until you can figure them out. And I just don't know what to expect from this game. So, most, if you want a game for Gus Johnson to announce in week 4. If you were to pick the game that Gus Johnson would be assigned to, this would be the one. Cowboys at Chargers. Pats at Falcons. I know that my former co-host Matt will be agonizing over to whether to watch this game or Breaking Bad. He's probably gonna go with Breaking Bad because he loves pop culture above all else. But Falcons' downfield passing attack has been very good so far this season. Julio Jones has just been phenomenal. No drops so far. He's he has, I think, a catch rate greater than 60%, which is a fantastic start to the season. And I don't see who covers him on the Patriots. And I think the Falcons are in a little bit of a desperation mode. Even though they've played better than their 1-2 record, they are 1-2, and they are in the Georgia Dome, where Matt Ryan has historically been very, very tough to beat, and they're facing a team with a very suspect secondary. So I feel like they would be foolish not to just let loose this game and start ripping it down the field. If there's any game that the Falcons can really make a statement in and potentially turn their season around with, this would be it. I mean, if the Falcons lose this one, they have real issues because I don't know the number of teams that have gone 1-3 and have come back to win the Super Bowl, but I can guarantee you that the record on those aren't good. And finally, we have our best game of the week on Monday night, Dolphins at the Saints. Dolphins might be for real. They showed a lot of poise coming back against Atlanta last week. Their defense forcing 2 turnovers. Ryan Tannehill made the throws that he needed to make. Everybody has a role on that team. Uh, they have the speed running back with Lamar Miller, the power guy with Daniel Thomas. They could stretch the field with Mike Wallace or kind of keep it in the slot with guys like Brian Hartline or over the middle with Anthony Fasano. You got the one pass rusher with Cameron Wake. There's just everybody does something on the Dolphins. And that's a very, very good thing. I feel like they're going to keep this one close, but ultimately they lack a really solid secondary. And I feel like Drew Brees is going to take advantage of that. So I'm going to take New Orleans 34-24 here. And that's all for this episode of AM Sports Live. Come back on Tuesday and listen to me break down everything that happened in Week 4 of the NFL season. Plus, get my take on whatever happens between now and then. Because, hey, it's sports. Anything can happen. So, like I said, that's all we've got. Just one last reminder, like us on Facebook at AM Sports Live. Follow me on Twitter at AM Sports Live 1. Questions, email them to amsportslive@gmail.com. Follow National Sports on Spreaker.com or on YouTube. And that's all the social media stuff that I have to push for this week. So, with that, thank you for listening. We'll see you back here in about 96 hours. And your September 27th edition of AM Sports Live is now officially off the air.